This video is going to be a little bit more of a practical video of how to actually make a solution in lab. The last two videos were calculation videos, how to do the calculations. Now this video we're going to do the calculation because you still have to do that part. Then we're going to take that calculation. I'm going to show you how you would actually use that your calculations, the numbers that you come up with to make the solutions that you're calculating for. So this is a more practical video so that when you go into lab, I say make this solution, you do the calculations, and then you know how to do the next step. The last video showed you the calculations. This is the next step of how to actually go into lab and finish the job. So to start with, it says I need to make a 100 milliliter solution with this concentration. It's sodium chloride. So the first thing, I'm going to do a little bit of shortcutting here for you. The molar mass of sodium chloride is 58.44 grams per mole. You should take a second here to figure out how many grams I'm going to need. So to figure out how to make this solution, so this is what's called a 100 milliliter volumetric flask. So if I fill this flask up to this line right here, I know I have exactly 100 milliliters. So the next step in making the solution is figuring out how many grams of solid do I need to put in here. So I know my volume, I've got the flask ready to measure that volume, but I don't know how many grams I need to put into here. So to do that, I'm going to need this equation. Molarity equals moles per liter. Now again, I want to solve for grams because that's what the balance weighs out here. So I'm going to do a little bit of rearranging on this equation. So I'm going to go molarity times liters equals moles. And now I know that my molarity is this, so 0.125 molarity times point, and remember it's got to be in liters here, 0.100 liters. So just to make sure I don't screw this up, I should just move the decimal over. Let's just make sure here. Okay, 0.0125. So that's how many moles of NaCl I need. Now, I don't know how to measure moles on this balance, so now we have to go one step further, calculate grams. So I'm going to bring moles of NaCl down. Grams of NaCl goes on top. 1 goes with the mole, and there's 58.44 grams per mole. So I do this step here, times 58.44, 0. And let's see here. Let's say that this is a decimal there to make that 3 sig figs. That's 731 grams. That's a 3, by the way. There we go. 731 grams of NaCl. So that's how many grams I need to put into here. So the next step, now that I got all of this information, I would go take a piece of weigh paper, stick it on the balance, zero it out. So it says 0.00 there. Then I would add a little pile of sodium chloride on there until the balance said 0.731 grams. The next step is I would take that weigh paper over to my flask and I would pour it into here. So now I've got a little bit, I've got 0.731 grams of sodium chloride on the bottom of the flask. Now you might be like, okay, I've got to add a liter of water, or sorry, 100 milliliters of water. But that is not true. When we look at this equation, this is moles per liter. This is liter of solution, not liters of solvent. And there is a difference when I say that. So this volume is the volume of the solvent and the solute combined. So the volume of the salt plus the water should be 100 milliliters, not 100 milliliters of water. It's going to be something a little bit less than 100 milliliters of water because the salt takes up some of that space. The next step is I got to add water to this. So I got to add water, but I wouldn't fill it up right up to the 100 immediately. The reason why I wouldn't do that is because the salt, as it dissolves, the volume of the solution might expand or shrink, and you don't really know what it's going to do. So what you want to do is fill it up with water. After you add the salt, you add water till the bottom of the flask is about full up to there. What that allows you to do is that gives you lots of room to slosh the solution around to let it all dissolve. Now, once it's completely dissolved, then I would fill it up until your meniscus, just touches that line up there, right? The bottom of the meniscus should be right on that line. And then at that point, you're good to go. But I don't recommend filling it up even to here right away, because if there's still salt that needs to be dissolved, it's pretty hard to get it to slosh around to dissolve when the water's full up to here. If you leave some space, then you can get a little bit more swirling action before you fill it up to the line. So that's how to make a solution with a solid in water. And here's how to make a dilution. So it says I need to make 100 milliliters of a 0.24 molar solution. I've got a stock solution that has a concentration of 6 molar. So I need to dilute this 6 down to 0.24. So I've got my M1 V1 equals M2 V2. So my initial concentration is 6 molar. Oh, we don't want to join that meeting. Okay. Initial concentration is 6 molar. My job is to figure out how much of that initial volume, how much volume of this 6 molar I need, because I need to dilute that till it reaches this concentration and has this volume. So we've got our equation set up here. Then the next step is to solve it. 6 molar, molarity cancels. Get rid of it on that side. So now I'm going to take 0.24 times 100 divided by 6. And what I get is in milliliters. So I get 4.00 milliliters. So what that means is I need to take 4 milliliters of the 6 molar solution and dilute it until it gets up to 100. So again, let's pretend like this is a 100 milliliter flask. The flask will have a number like right here that says like 100 milliliters, or it might be 1 liter, or it might be 50 milliliters, or 10 milliliters. These flasks come in different sizes, and they only actually are good for one volume, whatever that volume is up to that line. So my first step is I'm going to take this 6 molar solution, and I am going to measure out 4 milliliters. So I've got my graduate cylinder here. I would make I'd fill it up until the meniscus just touches that 4 milliliter line. Then the next step is I would pour this into here. I would even at this point, because there might be still a few drops left in it, I would rinse this with water and pour it into here just to make sure that all of that 4 milliliters gets rinsed into there. I'm going to add water to it eventually here anyways, so it doesn't matter if I add water here to rinse it out, as long as I add water and then end up pouring it in there. So now I've got like 4 milliliters in here, so just a tiny little bit of liquid on the bottom. And then at this point, I would just add water until it gets up to the 100 milliliter line. And at that point, I know that my concentration is 0.240 molar. And you might be like, well, don't you have to fill it halfway and swirl it? And the answer is no, because it's already dissolved down here. You're not trying to dissolve it, you're just diluting it. So it's not a big deal for this one. You just pour your first liquid in, the initial volume into here, and then you just fill it up to the 100 milliliter mark. So that is how you make solutions from dilutions, or you make solutions from solids. So hopefully that should come in handy, because as you move on in chemistry, you will be making solutions more and more. So those are good skills to have as you move on.